Jameson Mohammadi, welcome to the podcast.
Tyler.
Thanks for being here.
Good to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. We're in Salt Lake City again for the people who've been following along. Just a great town. Just a great place to be. Summertime. Could be a little cooler.
It's toasty.
Yeah.
It's toasty right now, yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying not to go nuts every day in the RV because we've got both the AC units on like full blast all day. And I need these headphones to survive that.
Yeah.
Just like having that amount of like white noise going on all the time.
Oh, for sure.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, here we have like the train outside, and then every now and again with like an aereo fan that's kind of like a jet engine, but
yeah. Does that train go by like at night and honk its horn and
it's
stuff?
nonstop.
Do they do the horn though in the middle of the night?
Because
that I couldn't do.
This is allegedly like a no horn zone, so I think because there's probably like residential permitting.
That's good.
But there's an inland port just up the road here, which is actually super controversial for a lot of people in town.
Okay.
Because obviously, like inversion in the valley here, air pollution is like some of the worst in the country.
Right.
Sometimes, like I think I've heard argued the worst in the world.
Nice.
Because it just sits, the inversion with the valley and kind of the temperature shift.
Yeah.
So when you have the inland port and there's a second one coming, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, there's a big like granola population here.
Sure.
Because of access to the mountains. So you have a lot of forward-thinking people, you know, and so that obviously just kind of clashes with what they hope their city to be.
Yeah, I mean, Salt Lake City is one of those good examples of a town that has a lot of that like forward progress and capitalist thinking, but then we've also got a whole lot on the left and a lot of artists and young people, and you know, there's some clash in this town. We've got Mormon values mixed with non-Mormon values. And it's kind of all over the place.
It's a massive clash. It was like, do you remember the movie SLC Punk?
No, I haven't seen it.
It was classic. It's classic. It's like a handful of dudes in it, but it was filmed locally. It was called SLC Punk, and it was about like a dude going through the punk era in Salt Lake City, and he comments on that it's like this huge clash of it's almost like the suppression or like the intent of suppression from the conservative right fuels this like response of this budding, thriving counterculture.
Well, I always feel like there's such a balance there. I mean, it's always going to be just as much of anyone. However polarized you are on one side, you're going to be just as polarized. So if you've got a strong Mormon roots and conservative roots in this town, you're going to have like a strong counterculture coming up too.
Yeah, like pendulum phenomenon.
Yeah, 100%. That's just going to be how it is. I don't know if there are places in the country where it's different, but I feel like that tends to be how it goes. But I do love Salt Lake City, man. I love Utah in general. Like, you guys just have everything out here. It's just phenomenal.
We're very, very lucky.
Yeah. Are you from this area or did you move here?
So I was, my mother is, my grandma's from Boston. So like Irish Catholic on my mom's side. They were here. But my father is from Iran. And he came out here like a lot of Iranians during the revolution in like the mid to late 70s.
Okay.
And so they met. I was born here. But we left when I was pretty young. So this was always kind of a base camp for me, coming back and forth. But I have spent most of my life away. Only in 2019 did I come back to continue education. And because, like you said, I love it here.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
Yeah.
I feel like the world's copping on to what we have here. It was kind of a kept secret for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking, I think, on the last episode about how, like, for us Midwest kids who just grew up with, like, half the year is gray skies and ice. And then the other half of the year, you're like, thank God there's some actual sun in the sky. And then you come out west and, you know, having the opportunities that I do to travel as much as we do, it's like, I very rarely want to leave the West. Like, I really want to hang out in Arizona, in Colorado, in Utah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I want to be.
It's a powerful place, man. Like, geography alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always feel like people who grow up with mountains, like, they don't quite appreciate it in the same way as if your landscape was flat your whole life and then you see mountains and you're like, those are painted, right? Like someone's painted those. Those can't be real.
Yeah.
And then but even I start to just get used to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's normal to see those over there. And I stop and I don't have that same sense of just like stop and wonder at those existing.
See, I don't know what it was. It may have been like, so I grew up in Vegas and, from day one, I was there for like 15 years. It just was not my style. Didn't like it ever. I had a great family upbringing, you know, but the actual location of Las Vegas was not for me.
Sure.
And so I always had this romanticized vision of Salt Lake City and going back and seeing family here. So for me, when I see the mountains, I've lived in some majestic places. Like one of note was I lived just north of Big Sur, California. So that coastline is like world renowned.
Sure. Okay.
And I always thought it was beautiful. It was a really special place. But still, every time we drive the coastline with people, are like, oh, wow, look at that. in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, but it's not the mountains, you know. Like they'd see the hills, and I just imagined in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And so every time I go out the door, still it just hits you, like Mount Olympus over there.
Well, what's weird is I don't feel like maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I don't feel like the actual lake itself is kind of a big deal to people who live here.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I mean, people don't seem to like. I mean, do people go out on it recreationally? No. It's pretty gnarly, right? I mean,
it's super gnarly. Yeah. I've heard. I haven't done my homework on like what's happened. I once, and don't run with this at all. This may have been misinformation entirely, but I was told at one point. Yeah. But like Union Pacific had charge of a causeway, and then eventually the cause, like the actual throughways for the water to exchange on both sides, they became unkempt, and so one side of the lake became highly salinated, the other side didn't. And again, this could be completely fabricated.
Well, you can see it on like Google Maps. There's a line across the water, and it's different colors on either side.
Yeah. It's totally inhospitable now.
But you guys do have like Bear Lake just to the north, which I have been to, and is like a dream. It's like a blue, like you can look at a map of the United States on Google Maps and just like slowly zoom in, and you just see this bright blue thing that looks like an eyeball, and you're just like, what is that?
Stupid.
And it's just this beautiful gem that is Bear Lake.
Yeah.
That is a really, really cool spot to me.
Really cool, man. And I hope it's, there's like the Keep Tahoe blue bumper stickers that we all see. And you would hope there's a lot of, like you see behind you, there's that sign. It says Protect Wild Utah. So from that left we referred to earlier, there's a lot of push to maintain that, the natural beauty of these things. Yeah. But then, of course, you always have people on the other side of the aisle who are more focused on, capital gain and resource extraction.
I always wish people could see that there's such an obvious line between those two things, though, which is like if everybody's, again, let's talk about shit I don't know anything about. But I do feel like the whole question of renewable energy has always been the answer to both sides. It's like as technology advances, there are always more jobs. There's always more progress. If we advance technology toward renewable resources, there will be more jobs, more progress, and the land will be better. It just seems like such a huge no-brainer to me.
I totally agree. I think that it's similar with like in my profession. It's really nice because there's not a diet that's good for this. There's a diet that's good for this. If you're trying to get, it's like or for heart disease or for obesity or diabetes. It's not like there's diet specific therapies. I mean, of course, within reason. Like if people are suffering from something like autoimmunity, there are interventions that need to be made. But that said, by and large, it's like one diet, one modality, one operation is like it's the best thing for it all works in synergy. Yeah. And I think it's like what you're saying.
Well, I'm just a big fan of nuance. And I think that that's why I love podcasting, because you get so much more nuance from like an hour conversation than you get, or I've done 3-hour conversations than you get from 5 minutes of talking with someone.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no nuance to any discussion there. And everything has to happen so fast for everybody that, I don't know, you don't get into the like, well, where do we actually meet in the middle here? Take the time to figure that out. Anyway, the main thing is totally not what this podcast is about. We've already gone into like geography and politics. It's pretty cool. But not at all what I came to talk with you about. So I found you on Instagram, and I think the message I sent you was that I'm also into fighting and food and footwear of the barefoot variety. I was trying to really get you some alliteration there, because I noticed that those are 3 things at least that we totally have in common. It seems like you're really into those things, and so I came to talk about that shit with you, man.
I'm happy, man. I'll talk about that day in, day out. Yeah.
Give us your resume. First of all, tell us like what it is that you do, and then we'll go there.
Okay, short version. So what I do now is I'm a fitness coach. I'm a nutrition coach. And it's kind of like subcategories of what I help people with. I train at a couple of local gyms. I have my own practice on the side, which is known as Black Wolf Crew. And that is like a focus on ancestral lifestyle, ancestral modes of eating, modes of behavior. And then aside to that, I have a history in Muay Thai boxing, or Thai boxing is the translation. And so I have, some clients on the side that will do the rudiments of Thai boxing. And then the way I got there, is that too far back?
No, tell me about it.
Okay. I guess the just short version is that my dad was a super healthy, fit guy, like gym 5 days a week after work. So he imprinted on us, but he's also, like I said, he's from Iran. So we were lucky enough to, I mean, God love my mother and her side of the family, but they were a very kind of like, Catholic, 10 kids, middle income. So it was a very nuclear diet,
Sure.
like Wonder Bread, canned food.
Yep.
But then when she met my father, luckily we were raised with a Mediterranean diet, Persian food, every color of the rainbow, really nice protein, fats, lots of rice. And so food, that was always kind of an upbringing for me. I got a job at Whole Foods like right out of high school. And I credit them for actually exposing me to a lot of, food conversation, food politics, things like non-GMO and et cetera. Our father imprinted on us to be fit. So each one of my siblings, we're all in our own way, pretty fit. But I think one of the biggest pieces for me was part of my undergrad in California was I was deeply involved with the anthropology department, namely like physical anthropology, primatology. Did a lot of work at, we'd volunteer at a primate sanctuary in Santa Clarita. I was the manager of the lab, so worked a lot with bones and kind of human ancestor sort of skulls and intermembrals. And so that, you'll see the kettlebells back there.
Yep,
all the
I see them.
Primate heads, and I think all of that mashed together got me to a place where, it's hard. It's like as a health professional, you can really find bona fide science on justifying really anywhere you're coming from. You could justify, a high carb diet, high fat diet, high protein diet. You do whatever you want with the information. So that said, at a loss for how to navigate the information, for me, my approach is like what has been done for the greatest amount of time with success. I haven't seen, our ancestors wearing Nikes with, tall heels, high arches, and like a narrow toe box. I haven't seen them doing that.
I'm dying right now, by the way, but I have to wear like solid boots to ride because I love my feet being on my body. So
for sure,
yeah.
And, if I find like an open toe box form of boot that we can ride when we ride,
I know I have one, but it's all cloth. It's not got that. I need the, you need leather and you need some support and
totally. I'm looking for something actively because when winter comes around, it's tough. You want a sturdy boot trudging through the snow and everything, and especially when you're on the bike.
I think the ones we got some Zero shoes, which were
I saw those
pretty solid. I run in the sandals, which are pretty great and easy to fix when they break.
What sandals do you wear?
Just the I don't know, the most basic ones, I guess. The Huaraches.
Oh, like you're old school.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool,
yeah. My big thing was when I started running, I was like, okay, I'm either going to get into the barefoot thing or I'm not. But if I'm going to get into the barefoot thing, I'm also going to combine it with like a minimalist perspective and be like, what's the cheapest type of shoe I can do?
Cool.
Like, and all this is just like a piece of rubber on your feet to stop, glass and nails. That's pretty much it.
God, yeah, absolutely.
But it can be rough too. I've run on like mountain trails and I've kicked rocks and literally looked down and like my whole toe is just bleeding and there's like a huge gash in it. And you're like, oh, cool. It's tricky.
I feel like I like to think that it seems like, and granted, this is like a very kind of concentrated part of the population, but the other day I was with my girlfriend at the farmer's market. And I've been doing, I've obsessed for about 2 years, about 12 years ago on barefoot. And that's kind of been going ever since. Yeah. But and I was also obviously working in anthropology. So like human anatomy and locomotion or like bipedal movement was really a focal point. So we're at the farmer's market and I started like smacking her like, hey, look, you barefoot, so, hey, look, barefoot, and you started seeing them more and more. So hopefully we're in like the transition where soon we might be able to find more option rather than just like the far end of the spectrum.
Oh no, it's 100% happening. Even like the bigger, even Nike is starting to have to make the shoes lighter. They're starting to have to widen the toe box because they can't deny the research that's happening.
Oh my God. Yeah, thank God for that, right?
Yeah. And, but it's still like, you still look at the shoes and it's just like such a giant heel no matter what. And that's like even the style now, I feel like their shoes look kind of goofy. Like I'll get myself in trouble, but like like the Yeezys have that big old heel on the back that just like sticks far out, or
maybe if
even all the like Nike minimalist shoes have like a giant heel that sticks out the back, and
it's kind of like shoots off like at 45 degrees behind you.
Yeah,
like,
behind you.
It's unreal.
And it's really just like continuing to promote that like heel strike thing. But then the more I started learning about that, I was like, we've only been doing that since like the 70s. Like that's like you said, it's like why don't we go farther back and see like, what is the foot supposed to do? And also around that time, and there's so much research on this, but I know around that time is when we started getting a ton more ankle injuries and knee injuries and back injuries. And like, it's all connected to the same time period.
Absolutely, man.
It's messed up.
I was just talking to my sister, cause she's got 2 young kids, about, I wish I remembered his name, but he did his PhD on the potential consequences of the youth being overly exposed to technology, to, tablets, iPads, iPhones, etc. And the takeaway that I got from it is he kind of said, which I think we could apply to this, is like, what are the downstream consequences of doing something so new and unique to our story as humans? Could they be positive? Totally. Like interventions with penicillin, badass. We are all very grateful for that human intervention.
Yep.
But we just don't know what the consequences are going to be. And obviously we're seeing them. People are dealing with like plantar fasciitis and, like reverberations up the kinetic chain in the knee and in the lower back and fallen arches, high arches, yada, yada. So, and granted, a bit of it's anecdotal, but a lot of people come to me and this, like they have long stories, anecdotal stories of, that might be redundant, anecdotes.
Sure. We'll give it to you.
Yeah, of like huge broad spectrum issues they had with their bodies, and then just by implementing like minimalist or barefoot therapies. I mean,
and it takes time, and I don't know if it's for everyone, and I don't know if there's an age at which you really shouldn't mess with it anymore. It might be too late to build up some of those areas. I know that when I was in high school, I got into the idea. And I tried running barefoot, and I ended up giving myself a stress fracture because I wasn't going about it the right way. Like back then, I didn't even know that I needed to change my stride. Like I was still heel striking to do that.
Yeah.
And so like this time around, I came at it way slower, and I really have worked my distance up. And I don't run distance because I don't necessarily buy into running distance as a thing for my health.
I agree. Same.
Yeah. It's
totally.
So, but you have to go really slow with it, and it takes some time. But,
yeah.
But you know what book really elucidated that really well for me? This idea of like, we need to go back in history it's like the breath book. It's the James Nestor breath book about breathing through the nose, and how he demonstrates how the skull changes from generation to generation. And when, we expect that like ancient people had just shit teeth because they didn't have any dental care, but really they had room for all their teeth, and their faces were much wider, and their teeth are straight and perfect. And over time is when our mouths started to cave in on processed food and stopped breathing through our noses. And it's that I feel like is one of the best examples of reading something and going like, oh, in history and in our natural evolution, this was going right. And we did something to mess it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that timeline is exponentially longer, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if something worked, it worked for a very, very, very long time. Obviously there are like anomalies, but we're not looking at anomalies. We're looking at huge populations of people, all who have the same feet or the same dental formula, like you're saying. And it's like
that we can tolerate change so quickly. I feel like we're so good at actually handling change that in our own lifetimes we've gone from like the internet was barely a thing to like the internet is, for both of us, it's like that's your career, that's your lifestyle, that's the whole thing. That's where you really need to make things happen, and it's very, very real. That just happened in our lifetimes in a little over 20 years or whatever, because we can tolerate change that quickly, it means that we're all tolerating change really fast. So we look around the world and we're like, this is what it looks like. This is probably what it's always looked like.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, go like a few generations back and you are not far from like the Civil War. You're not far from like totally agrarian America. Like
that's well said.
You know what I mean?
Looking through a soda straw.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I see it. I got you.
Because we're geared to it. I don't know. Maybe I'm going on a bad tangent. But.
No. I think actually that'll bring us right back, because in exercise science, there's a principle. It's called the SAID principle, and it's the acronym for specific adaptations to imposed demands. And that's basically the principle that if you lift weight, your body will build muscle mass. And if you run, your body's going to lose the muscle mass, and it's going to prioritize what it needs for endurance, which is, fat stores, less weight. So basically anything that we impose on the body, we're going to respond. We're, like you said, we are great adapters. But I think that's the issue. That's where do we find, what are our priorities as a species or as a society, right? It's like, do we want to get really good working on a computer, working on a tablet? Like I could tell you as a coach that I see people coming in who clearly have prioritized like a digital experience for most of their lives. Then they go to the doctor, the doctor says, you have this. I prescribe exercise, go to the gym. They come to me, and they may excel in one category, the digital category, their chosen vocation. But there are obviously unintended consequences, and you remember in The Matrix when like Neo comes out of the pod?
I wondered how long we get to The Matrix.
Yeah, it's always because of that. But he like can't see, he can't walk, he's atrophied because he's been in like a fetal sack. Sure. And that's what a lot of people with that digital experience, that's what they're experiencing. It's like common sense isn't so common. I think we take for granted the ability to like throw a ball or jump in the air or, like run around a building. And it's just shocking how much, by prioritizing one thing and another thing getting neglected, it's like, yeah, your body's adapting. Is it adapting in the way we want it to adapt? That's I think the question.
And it's a real struggle too. Actually, it's really poignant that you're talking about kind of that adaptation, because I feel like lately in my own life, it's been a lot like that. Like I've been trying to adapt to Andrea and I had to do a ton of work on our company. We basically had to like rebuild a bunch of systems from the ground up. Mm-hmm. So we've been completely swamped. We also drove from Minneapolis to San Francisco to Salt Lake City, and it's not looking like any of that is going to slow down for us at all. Yeah. We have multiple shoots all over the place. So we're working a ton. At the same time, we've decided that we're going to be working out like crazy. So both of us are pulling multiple workouts in a day just because that's what we decided we want to do. And on top of that, we don't compromise on food. So I cook every single meal that we eat. And so
good man.
It's a really strange thing, but you start to realize like if I am unwilling to compromise any of this stuff, then I'm going to have to output a whole lot more. And if you really want to be a well-rounded person, mm-hmm. you have to take responsibility for that too. And it's a lot of hours and a lot of work to make that happen. And some things totally fall apart. Like some things fall by the wayside. Mm-hmm. Because you really want to believe that you can whole ass 1,000 things and sometimes you can't. But your body will also adapt and like get better. You're going to start to need a little less sleep. The workouts will hurt you a little less, and you'll find faster and better ways to cook and all these things. Mm-hmm. So, but I think it's the initial like momentum build of getting that going and then waiting for it to like pay off. Like, don't they say, like, I think Andrea was looking this up the other day. She was saying like any diet and exercise program takes like 8 weeks before you really start to see that working. And I've heard similar things about just building habits.
Yeah.
It takes so long to really kick in.
Yeah. It's funny. What I tell people is that sometimes when people get impatient with not seeing results as fast as they want, I remind them that it goes both ways. Just like going and eating you work out at the gym every day and you're fit, and you got a six pack, just like going and eating a Big Mac isn't going to destroy your six pack. Like it goes both ways. You're not going to get cancer overnight.
That's interesting.
Obviously there are extreme scenarios like, being exposed to toxins in like a power plant or something. I don't know.
Sure. But you could become Spider-Man if you do that. You could become
Spider-Man. We're all hoping out for it.
Right.
But yeah, like it takes time, and thankfully it does, right? Because all your hard work, I mean, there is like the reversibility principle where it's like within about 72 hours, the progress you're getting will start to reverse itself after 72 hours of neglect. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, and it takes time in both directions.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's an uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle, and I love what you said. That you and your wife are prioritizing exercise and food. I think we've been told this story that, especially in America, it's like it's outsourcing, right? Could I go outside and fix my car?
Don't get me started. Yeah, go there.
Yeah, I mean, I could fix my car for sure. Like somebody said, there's no shortage of information. But it's the navigating of the information. And that's where professionals come in handy, right? So I'm not going to fix my car. In a world where the time is abundant, for sure, I'd love to learn. But I have other priorities, right? Like yourself, I'm cooking my own food for myself and the people I care about. I'm exercising, I'm getting good sleep, I'm working my profession. And then at the end of that, however much time is available, I think people trim away. They're outsourcing these things like their food, mm-hmm. like their health to, supplements or, and restaurants and fast food and carry out. But there's it's a frustrating lack of oversight in this country for that to be, there's like the license to do so doesn't come with a regard for the well-being of your customer.
Yeah.
So with you doing that, I think you're operating in the way that a person has to operate. And so there's like a fictitious amount of time that each person is afforded that I don't think is a reality. It's like because you're going to suffer consequences inevitably.
Well, that's true. I mean, they say that like you do the 5 basic health principles like sleeping and exercise mm-hmm. and eating well, and you're going to add like 14 years onto your life. I just heard someone say that.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
sure.
yeah, so you get all that time back. You really do.
That's a great way to put it. That's yeah, you got to.
And if you feel like shit, you can't be productive at all. You know, if you're sick, you can't do shit. I mean, when I think about like people I work with and how often in a year they'll get sick, and I'm like, man, that's a lot of weeks off. That's it's a lot of time off where you're stuck in bed because you're sick with this or that. So there is a value back, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And I feel like there's this like, real quick, I need to touch on this because you're talking about the outsourcing thing. I'm obsessed with it. I've done that on the podcast a number of times. Cool. Like there's this split between the productive and the personal. And like, if you advance the productive, I feel like you lose some part of the value of being alive. Like the ultimate productive way that we could do things is like, it goes back to like Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, which is like, these guys can do this better and faster than you, so you should outsource it to them. Meanwhile, you're better and faster at this thing, so you should keep that yourself. And that makes the whole world far more productive. But what you end up with is most people who are outsourcing all of their cooking to people who are better and faster at it, but not worrying about quality the way you would if you were doing it yourself. You outsource your activities to digital media and things like that. You outsource your own survival to so many other places, your health, whatever. And what you're left with is like sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours a day, and then sitting in front of a TV, and then going to sleep quite late, you know? So, but you lose all that person. Like to me, I'm finally starting to get to this place where it's like, that is the best part of being alive. Like the best part of being alive should be when I cook that meal that just kicks ass. Yeah. And when I go out and go for a run, like that should be some of the best parts of my day. When I go do jujitsu, some of the best part of my day. That to me doesn't become the workout anymore. That becomes like living. Yeah. And then everything else is just what I need to do to make it all happen. Is there something there?
Oh, I think that's huge, dude. I think that's huge. That's it, and I feel like you've gone deeper than than I've gone. And it came upon a thought recently. I have a friend, and it seems like there's something missing, like the way he expresses himself at this point in his life. It seems like there's something missing, and he's struggling with it. And he seems like he keeps trying to fill the void with new, hobbies, like this new toy or this new activity or this, and it's just constant. And hey, fair, like good for him. He's trying. He's trying to figure it out. But that got me to start thinking. Like I wake up every day. And I look around, and everybody does this. You look around at all the things you need to do. What's your to-do list like? And I feel like the more intricate that to-do list goes, it's obviously the less time you can invest in one single thing. But obviously, it's like that's a lot of maintenance. I gotta work on my car, and I gotta clean the kitchen, and I gotta cook my food, and I gotta exercise, and I gotta paint the walls, and I also want to learn how to shoot arrows. So I gotta go do that, and I want to do this, and then that's just for a solo person. Then you have a family, you have a wife, you have children. It's mind-boggling, and I don't think it's sustainable. So an alternative to that, my thinking, and there's always been this call in certain philosophies and mysticisms, like let it all go, go back to, minimal, like have less. And it's like, I think it's possible to, like you're saying, take something super simple like cooking, but go deep.
Yeah.
Go deep. And then switch over. Say you have like 5 things in your day. You have your relationship, you have your cooking, you have your jiu-jitsu, like go deep. And clearly you're living testament to where you found fulfillment.
Well, you get more out of it. And I certainly like going minimal for Andrea and I was a necessity. It was because we were going to move into a 36-foot long box. That's why we started doing it and got rid of all of our stuff.
Such a crazy way to put it.
Right. But that we had to. And what we realized is like even living in a 1-bedroom apartment, we were like, we have so much shit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much shit we had. And we got rid of it. And now even in the kitchen where I do a ton of stuff, I can get away with 2 pots and 2 pans.
Boom.
For everything. Yeah. And they're almost always going all the time. Like I literally have beans going at home right now.
Nice.
So there's always something happening in that kitchen. And then if you're fermenting and if you're doing sourdough, which I also do. But anyway, I feel like the whole thing is that like the more you put in, ultimately, the more you get out. And it's really hard to see that at first. And you definitely think that by going wider with your interests, but narrower, like buying a lot of gear. It's like we're boys. We like to buy toys, man. It's so great to buy shit. But if you just pick a few things that you're going to like commit to buying, like the motorcycle, and I've got the bow, and like those things matter a lot to me, and I'll do them a lot. And then I picked a sport like jiu-jitsu. You don't need to own a whole lot. You just need to own clothes that are right for jiu-jitsu.
Totally.
And they last for like a really long time.
Even new boys will probably argue against that, right? Like even if you don't have the gi.
Yeah.
You know, like no gi jiu-jitsu.
I do know gi. That's my style, but I did buy a gi because sometimes we're in towns where that's the only option.
Gotcha.
And I hate putting it on. I hate the gi so much. Oh my God. I don't get it.
Are you rolling it all here in town?
Yeah, I've been at 10th Planet, Salt Lake City.
Oh, cool. Amir. Yeah. Amir comes to the gym every now and again.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's an interesting.
I'm gonna get him on the podcast.
Cool.
That's my goal.
I'll tune in, man.
Because he said he'd talk to me about earthquakes and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, he first time he came to the gym, he's like, I started noticing all these tattoos of math equations all over his body, and I was like, what could this guy? Because he's obviously like very athletic when he was in the gym. I was like, so he's an athlete. But he's also clearly like a very intellectual fellow.
I rolled with him yesterday, and he just destroyed my life, which is what he does. It's what any black belt's supposed to do.
Well, he goes all the way back. He's like an Eddie Bravo boy, right?
Yeah, he's been doing. He said he's been doing it for 13 years.
That's insane.
Yeah,
scary. Probably the most dangerous man in Salt Lake City.
There's a good chance.
Thinking about
with
it, right?
his hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then that's the other concept of self-defense I love. I had an author, Tim Larkin, on my podcast who wrote a book called When Violence is the Answer.
Okay.
And I talk about his stuff a lot because the truth is, as dangerous as you can be with your hands, a gun changes the equation. And so he's got all these amazing, aspects of self-defense he's just like a realist in a lot of ways. Cool. It's really cool.
That's kind of like a Krav Maga approach, isn't it? Like,
it's, what? I don't think it's based in any martial art. I think it uses elements from all of them, but the way he breaks it down, and I definitely recommend people go listen to this episode because it may save your life.
I will.
For sure, man. And, well, go read the book. Don't give a shit about what I'm doing, but like he really breaks down the difference between social aggression, by which we're playing by a certain set of rules. Mm-hmm. We're usually talking about some sort of bar fight scenario, right? Where it wouldn't be okay to bite a guy's ear off in a bar fight, right?
Yeah. That's not cool, man.
Yeah, there's some rules, right?
Yeah.
And asocial violence, which is someone is intending to do you harm, and to notice what the differences are. Mm-hmm. But he really lays out that most social aggression can be completely avoided, and asocial violence, you need to meet with your own violence. He talks really about violence as not like a victim and an attacker, but as a winner and a loser.
Interesting.
And so if someone's coming at you with a knife, you don't want to use some fancy disarm technique, and jiu-jitsu may not even be that useful in that scenario, maybe for some body control.
Yeah.
But you probably want to like poke their eyes out. Like that's probably where you want to go first,
Yeah.
So it's really, he's got a totally different approach, but I still feel like jiu-jitsu it's such a challenge for the body, and it's so like, it's just so useful. So it makes you so much more confident as you just walk around, and it's also just a killer workout. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, I know you know that from Muay Thai. If I shadow box for 5 minutes, I'm like, holy fuck! Like, my back is killing me after that.
All of my clients that I do Muay Thai with, they're all female. They're all women.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I had to guess, it's because they're interested in like some semblance of self-defense, but also because it's just a kick-ass workout.
Yeah.
And I can relate to like when growing up, I was a sensitive kid, and I was like an artistic kid. I wasn't very athletic, but I was also really skinny. So I got picked on, and I was very sensitive. So it hit me internally, and I had never really had a lot of self-confidence, especially in a physical capacity. Like I always walked around like fearing that I'd get my ass kicked,
Yeah.
And then finally, when I started, doing Muay Thai, that it's amazing. Like now walking around, and that's why I recommend self-defense to any human on planet Earth. Because now walking around, if for no other reason, just the confidence that you feel confident in your own skin.
Yeah.
And now, walking around like, unless they have a firearm, even if he's like a 6'7" Samoan dude, like it doesn't faze me anymore. And that's I think one of the true gifts of martial arts.
Yeah, it is. It does so much for you. It does so much for you on the whole. I can't even. I don't even know that I can get into like just how much. And I've certainly done that on a number of other podcasts. But
it draws you in.
It totally changes the game in your mind. I had a thought, and it's gone. That's okay though. Usually I feel like that's a good thing because it means I'm actually like listening instead of just like planning the next thing I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So I'll take that as a win, actually.
Well said. There you go. That's actually, I'm going to take that. That's a good point. Because I know you always kind of like hit yourself, you're like,
right.
Damn it, I lost it.
Well, you had me going on some interesting. Well, I was the same as a kid, and I think because I grew up to be big and I'm quite tall, and then I started working out and lifting weights, and I was like, well, now I'm tough. And then I went to jiu-jitsu. And I get manhandled by 5 foot tall women, but Heather Raftery, who's been on my podcast before, I wish I had a video of this because I asked her to roll with me for a round, and in 5 minutes, I think she submitted me, probably 10 times. And
that's beautiful.
I just have no chance. I have no chance. There's a chance I could maybe land one punch, but by the time I have done that, it's not going to matter because my arm will be broken. And I feel like people don't necessarily get that about jiu-jitsu. But even like a basic understanding of it, I don't think we recognize how, when you're in the world of martial arts, you kind of assume everybody does it, but most people don't do it. It's a super small percentage of the population that does.
You're at a very narrow margin.
I'm in the town of Salt Lake City at a 10th Planet gym, which is like a prestigious type of gym, and a busy class. Well, I haven't been to that many classes, but there seemed like a fairly busy class the other night, and there's probably 10 to 20 people there in the entire town of Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And there's multiple gyms, but it's still such a fraction of the population.
Yeah.
You get 6 months into training, which is about where I am, and you recognize that someone who has no martial arts training still has no chance against you. There's things you already understand.
Yeah.
The problem is that I'm rolling with purple belts and brown belts and black belts who've been doing it
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah.
So it feels impossible, but it's not. When the new guy walks in and you're like, oh shit, this all works. He doesn't know what to do at all. It's a good feeling. And you
observable, like progression, huh?
Yeah, for sure. You got me going on the jiu-jitsu thing. I
feel
bad because this podcast has turned so much into that, but it's such an obsession.
No, I mean, it's the only reason that I haven't done jiu-jitsu, and I don't anticipate I will, at least not for a while, is because, like we were talking about before, it's like I already have too many vocations that I can handle, and so I'm just all in on Muay Thai.
For sure.
But that said, it's like I wouldn't put my daughter in Muay Thai. The first thing I do when I have a daughter, as soon as I get her out of that like 6-month-old swimming lesson, I'm gonna get her into jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
And anybody in the world, any women listening, it's like women shouldn't have to defend themselves. Unfortunately, we live in a world where they do.
Right.
That's just the reality, and it sucks. But I have total faith in the fact that if every woman on earth knew jiu-jitsu, our issues with violent crime would be entirely different.
I think if everybody had a discipline like martial arts, the entire world would be different.
Yeah, well
said. There's too much, because you start to actually estimate people. You recognize that you can't estimate people because that dude. I know a guy in Tucson he's a gamer. He's a professional gamer. I'm huge compared to this guy, and he plays video games and he drinks energy drinks, and he's a super nice guy, by the way. So I'm not trying to rag on him, because when he shows up, he just destroys me. He destroys me.
Wow,
and so
man, wow.
You constantly have to deal with that, like my size, lifting weights, being tough, having muscles, whatever. Like it's shit. It means shit when you get in there. All that matters is how much you dedicate yourself to like knowing martial arts.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful.
I wish I could credit this quote correctly. I think it might be like a Jocko Willink quote. I don't want to say that. But anyway, my favorite quote about jiu-jitsu was really just, it makes you anti-fragile. And I think about that every time I'm there.
I've heard that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you get those injuries and you're like, shit. But then you start rolling anyway and you're like, wow, my body can really do more than I thought. And
totally. Yeah.
You build up to it. I got to imagine it's the same with Muay Thai too.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Muay Thai, it's like, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. And,
do you guys pull punches and stuff? It's not like you're taking a lot of shots.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, I think that like that's one of the criticisms of traditional boxing gyms, is that it was kind of like if you survived with the fewest knockouts in your gym, that was your ticket to success. Now, I mean, like if you go to Vegas off the 215, like the UFC headquarters, I mean, they have every state-of-the-art equipment in there. I mean, they have nutritionists. So it's I think a lot of people see martial arts, it's like, oh, it's just a barbaric activity. You guys are beating each other up. I'd wager that those athletes are probably some of the best in the world as far as, diet, exercise, rest, recovery. I mean, they're on the forefront. They have to be. They have to be, right?
Yeah.
To compete at such a high level.
And not to mention they're getting tested like crazy.
Crazy. And
it's
not
all real.
Only because we're talking about martial arts. Like, I'm sure this is happening in most professional sports. But, I mean, yeah, like, and going back to the gym, it's like if somebody's in there like really trying to make a show or really trying to bring the pain, I mean, there's sometimes like I trained at a place on Oahu, and there was this guy, and I'll never forget what he said. He's like, we're not earning points. We're trying to disarm somebody. We're trying to inflict pain to stop their advance. And so on one hand, it's like you want to get hit, right? You want to be prepared for the time when you're in the fight. But then on the other hand, it's like out of respect for your opponent, it's like that. Let's go as far as we don't want to put yourself at unnecessary risk, or the people you're training with, because
right.
it's obviously it's a camaraderie, and I mean, if you go to Thailand, it's like you get injured in the gym, that's your money, you're out. Like you get pulled out of the fight, or a lot of the professionals here in America, it's like they get pulled out of a fight, man, that's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
Not everybody's Conor McGregor. Like these guys are like, they're counting pennies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that when you have like a passion to direct all of the training to, it makes a big difference. Because there was a time when I was cooking just because I knew it was good for me, and I was lifting because I knew it was good for me. And then as soon as I picked up a sport, or a few sports really, because archery I think would be the other one that I still train for.
Nice.
You
have
like
parallels.
I know, man. I'm so sad that you don't have as much time. We'll just do another episode later.
There you go.
It gives you something to work for. So now, like, my whole workout, like, I used to do some sort of kettlebell workout where it was like I'd do a certain number of reps that I thought were good. It was good and challenging, whatever. Now I'm doing it in 5-minute rounds separated by 1-minute rest periods.
Cool.
So that I'm pushing myself for 5 minutes and then I recover for 1 minute, because that's what my sport demands. That's what that means when I go to the gym is I'm going to roll for 5 minutes.
Nice.
I'm going to have 60 seconds to catch my breath and then roll again. And how many rounds can you build up to?
Yeah.
And I just think if you have that purpose, it helps massively to like put a sport towards all the training that you do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's, oh, I love that you brought that up. Can I piggyback off that? One thing that it's like a really common theme for me, for my clients, for members of the gym. And I was just having this conversation with my sister. It's like, the human body wants to stop, right? We want to rest. We want to preserve calories as much as possible. Food outside of our little soda straw that we're looking through, like food hasn't always been like absolutely available, right? So we're trying to preserve calories, and there's always an external motivation to move, right? We're chasing down a prey for food. We're running from a prey like a bear, or we're chasing an enemy, running from an enemy, or we're in unfamiliar territory and the sun's going down and we have to find shelter. Like there's always an external building shelter, foraging food, exactly, like getting on the river and fishing. There's always something to motivate us traditionally to move. So when we don't have to, we're chilling hard, right? And unfortunately, there's very little external motivation in 21st century, modern living,
and in modern working out too.
And in modern working out, right? So it's like you see these people. And I have to remind them, it's like your mind is doing everything it can to get you to stop. So you have to fabricate. You have to find like a fictitious scenario to motivate you. And like obviously for you, you're training for jiu-jitsu. There's it's like a Twinkie at the end of the fishing rod or whatever.
Yeah.
But these people, I try to tell them, it's like, imagine you're getting $5 for every rep you complete, or imagine. Like yesterday, there was this motion that we kind of had to pop down. I was like, imagine there's a child running past you off a cliff. What are you going to do to stop them? Sure. Put yourself in that mindset, right? And I think that you hit the nail on the head.
And when you can actually like create that mindset, when you actually do the sport that is so directly related, like, because when you do a martial art, it's like, it doesn't feel like this is a sport. It feels like I need to survive right now. And your whole body kicks into survival mode. You shed calories like crazy when you're in that mode, I swear. Because I don't sweat a ton when I'm working out. When I do jiu-jitsu, I'm soaked in 5 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's just, I think there's an adrenaline pump that's like, you better survive this. This guy's trying to kill you. Because the lizard brain has no idea that that I can just tap out and it's fine. I'm dying. I might die.
Which is great. And what a great part of the mind to exercise.
But that, I think some people won't have enough motivation from just like, I need to get healthy because I want to live longer. I need to get healthy for my family. For my kids, I need to get healthy because I want to be more productive and feel better. Sometimes I think that can just really run out on you. And I know some people do that. Some people get crazy fit because they're like, I've got kids now and I want to be around until they're adults. That's what I want. So I better get in shape.
Yeah.
But I don't think that works for everybody. But I've seen people come in to jiu-jitsu who lose weight like crazy and are working out like crazy because they get this obsession with this sport. And there's like, finally there's a goal to apply yourself towards instead of just the imaginary, I know squatting will help me, so I'm doing it, instead it's like squatting is going to make a difference in whether or not I can stand up, as I'm exhausted at the end of that round.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's what I love. Like, so the gym that I work with or for right now is, it's called F45. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
So it's based out of Australia. It's an international franchise. But it stands for Functional 45, and the idea is it's functional fitness.
Sure, yeah.
And that's a common word now in fitness, but that's the idea. It's like functional movement. And there's this past Christmas there was this video that went viral. I think, well, maybe it was just me. I watched it like 100 times and I cried every time. I'll send it to you when we're done.
Okay.
But it's a grandpa and he's like in his shed and he pulls out a kettlebell. Did you see that?
No.
He like finds a kettlebell and he starts actually puts on like his jogging suit. All his neighbors are observing him doing this day after day. And he's like taking the kettlebell and he lifts it and he puts it on a shelf. And then he takes it down and puts it on a shelf. And then at the end of it, it's like Christmas and he lifts up his granddaughter to put the star on the tree.
Yeah.
And then it just hits, man,
right.
you know? And I think that's the idea, is like that a big part of like exercise training is that a lot of it, on paper, a lot of people think, I don't need a trainer. I know how to, I get it. Squatting is good for you, but a lot of it is like this psychological shift it's a psychological shift that needs to be worked at. Yeah. So like you said, long-term goal, awesome, right? Like everybody knows it's like, well, I want to live longer. I want to be healthy. I want to see my grandkids grow up. But that's often not enough to motivate a person in the moment, right? You have to have like short-term inspirations that apply to your long-term goals.
Yep.
You know?
And how often do you get like, like how often does that actually help people contribute to their 401k? Being like, well, I'll really appreciate it when I'm 65. Instead they're like, you know what? Taco Bell sounds really good tonight, actually. So
I can think of,
shell it out.
Yeah, I can think of maybe like on one hand, people in my life that had that, maybe that's considered type A. You know, the people that were like getting their master's degrees at like 20, kind of thing. And that's great, but it's clearly rare. Yeah. So it's like some people can operate that way, but again, we're looking at the broader population.
That's why I like to hang out in like the financial independence communities online and stuff, because those people do things that I can't even believe. You know, they're like, hey, I'm 26. I've got $2 million in the bank. I live in a shit apartment with 6 roommates. That's how I've done it. So I'm about to retire. Yeah. And you're like, are you kidding?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, so it's good to be around people with that mindset. But I don't think that, it goes kind of back to what we were talking about before, which is like, I don't think that like ambition and zen and gratefulness can't go together. I think they absolutely can. It's just you have to apply your own ambition to how much you want to simplify and purify your own life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you have to be just as ambitious about, I want to achieve all these things, and then take the goals of like, because I want to buy a boat, because I want to buy a car, and instead turn them into, so I have all this ambition, I'm going to apply it to like things I get to brag about now, which is like, I cook all my meals. I'm so proud that I get to brag about that because I applied the ambition to that. And that becomes its own like Zen practice in a way. And I feel grateful and all these things. So I feel like people think that it's like, it's, you know, two opposite directions. I just don't think it has to be.
I totally agree. I think at the end, I mean, I feel like everywhere you look, you'll start to identify patterns, right? And I'm not talking about like sacred geometry. Like, yeah, sure, there's patterns everywhere. Or what's that? The Fibonacci sequence.
Sure.
But we're actually talking about patterns in like, you know, the way medicine is going, hopefully sooner rather than later. But there's all these specialty doctors in Western medicine, right? There's like a foot doctor, there's a knee doctor, there's a hip doctor, there's a lung doctor, a heart doctor, etc. But then we're taking the approach where a lot of these kind of progressive hospitals, they have like a whole panel of people. Maybe they'll have specialists, but they're all sharing the conversation. It's like, well, this is wrong with his knee. It was like, well, this could be related to this. It's all one movement. And I think that when you are cooking, for example, I think the more you do it, it starts to build its own momentum, and it starts to like develop this gravity, and everything starts to flow all in one. And it's not like necessarily spinning plates. I think it might start that way. But I think eventually it all starts to where you're just doing the one plate. And I think it all helps in its own. I've never spun a plate before, but.
Let's make a lot of analogies of things we've never tried.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but you're right. You know, with cooking too, it's like, which is good because I wanted to talk about cooking. The key thing is like you start with something. You start with something that's like approachable. Mm-hmm. Like, can you at least commit to like, I'm going to cook from home. I'm going to make some mac and cheese tonight. All right, start there if that's all you're comfortable with. Yeah. Maybe you're not even comfortable with that because I think a lot of people aren't. They're like, how do I boil water? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a legitimate question I think people have. And there's wrong ways to boil water, and you forget to salt it, or you don't put some oil in it, and all your pasta sticks together. So you'll start to learn those things. But what really happens is the next time you'll be like, I wonder if I could make my own cheese sauce. That'd be a good challenge. Yeah. And you learn that a cheese sauce really just takes some flour, some butter, some milk, some cheese. Yeah. And then the next time you're making your mac and cheese, you look at that packet and you're like, why is there sunflower oil in this cheese sauce? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't need it when I made mine, and mine tasted better. Yeah. You know, and then the next time you're like, well, I've got all this pasta. Everybody's talking about gluten, all this shit. I wonder if there's like a better way to do pasta. And so you start finding like vegetable pastas. And then you're like, maybe I should make my own pasta. Mm-hmm. And then you just flour an egg. That's all that's going in it. Or you can get to where I'm at, which is like sourdough pasta. So all the gluten's broken down. And like, it just sort of happens in phases, but people have to be willing to approach the first one. And, you know, I really want to try to encourage people to not be so overwhelmed by it. Like if you just start with making packaged food from the store, but you do that for like a week, by the end of that week, you're going to be like, well, when I go to this restaurant and I look at like the nutrition information, like why is all this shit in there? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Because when I made it, it was real easy. When I made ground beef, it was just oil and beef and my spices.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's just so much forgetfulness there when you're not practicing it.
And I love that you lay it out that way, because I think you're right. I think most people are daunted, and honestly, rightly so. Like a majority of low-income peoples in America, they don't have access to fresh foods, and a lot of people think like, okay, yeah, whatever, but you take it for granted, right? It's like if you're a kid growing up in inner city LA, right? You have a single parent, she works 2 jobs, she's unable to be around to prepare your food for you, so maybe she leaves like $5 or $10 on the table every day. She might have 2 bus commutes or like an Uber ride or, a train ride to get to an actual grocery store. Because if you are in some of these inner city low income areas, like the only food you have access to literally could be like a 7-Eleven. And to you, without proper education on what nutrition is and what you should and shouldn't be eating, you see that, and a regular person, unfortunately, would see is like, oh, of course, America wouldn't sell food that's not good for you. It's food, it's food.
It's food.
I've survived this long on it.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's the reality. A lot of people there's no class in high school. I didn't take a class. All right, maybe there's home ec, right? But that was an elective. Not everybody's forced to go through home ec.
I would love to see the nutrition information from like a standard public home ec class.
Truly. And you know what? Honestly, like a lot of it, if I had to guess, would probably be like, this is how you make mac and cheese. It's like, cool, thanks. I could have read the box.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Like chopping up an onion. Like what to do with a tomato. It's like if I showed people a basket of fresh food, it's like people like you and me, because of our experience, we might say, like, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, but we're super advanced. And that's actually one of the endeavors of Black Wolf Crew coming up, is that to have these small packages of information. It's like, we're going to take recipes, and together we're going to break it down in super simple ways. We're going to show you the tools you need, super minimal, like you're saying, you do everything with 2 pots. I'm not going to ask for a vegetable spiralizer, We're not going to get a food processor, all this stuff. We're going to get you a knife, get you a pan or a pot, and we're going to show you how, this is what you do with an onion. This is what you do. This is how much it's going to cost. This is the nutritional information. And this is the alternative, how much that would have cost, and all the extra shit that's in there.
Yeah. And well, I love that you guys are going to help make that more accessible. And I feel like it's happening. I was just talking on the last podcast about how things like HelloFresh and Purple Carrot and all these things are making it more accessible for people to recognize their own ingredients. And it's, it's a gentler introduction. I'm into that. At the same time, I feel like you just brought up something else that I hadn't thought about before, which is like in this sort of Pinterest world of recipes, we get really confused about the culinary arts compared to like food to sustain you. So like a lot of my meals, I have meals that look pretty, but mostly they don't fucking look pretty. Like they're mostly super functional. They're mostly about like the least ingredients possible for the most stuff. Hi there. How you doing?
That's Jules.
Jules has walked through the room. Hello.
The one, the only.
Jameson and Jules.
The all singing, all dancing.
Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Did you get your protein? All right.
Nice.
If anybody ever has the privilege to work out with Jules, she's been known at the gym as like the motivator.
Oh, okay.
I've had people ask me not to pair up with her.
She's the drill sergeant.
She's a warrior, man.
Nice.
Yeah, she's 5'3" little warrior. But, sorry, you're saying Pinterest recipes and foods to sustain you.
Yeah, so like we've made it to like I see these recipes online. They're like those quick little videos that they've got like the little dumb winky smiley face at the end, and they're like, here's how to make this recipe. And it's really like Doritos on top of your mac and cheese, like kind of stuff. But it really all comes down to like presentation or fancy names or things.
Yeah.
As opposed to like get a grain and then put some meat on it and then put some sauce or some cheese on it. Totally. And you're going to have an awesome night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wait, like I joke with Jules where, it's when she's around, she's a flight attendant. So she's mobile a lot. But so whenever she's here, I'll make very similar meals to what I'll make for myself, for her. Because when I cook for anybody, I'm focusing on like nutrition first, and then we'll build from there. And we'll make it taste good. And then at the very end, we'll make it look nice. When I'm eating it, I might as well be eating it out of a bucket.
Right.
It probably looks like dog food.
Yeah.
But it's the same ingredients. But when she's here, the plating, the presentation, it's entirely different. And there's so much, it is, but yeah, I guess I don't know.
Well, it should start with taste first. It should start with taste first.
Yeah.
And I've heard great chefs make the point of you can eat anything you want as long as you cook it all yourself. because
100%.
you will find that if you try to spend all day baking cookies, you're not going to have that much of a taste for it. And you'll burn a ton of calories baking cookies.
I heard somebody say the same thing. It might have been, maybe it was Michael Pollan.
I think it was Michael Pollan. I always think it's him.
I mean, hey, he's a chef. I've seen him in the kitchen. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. So that same concept. So it should be about something that you want to eat and that tastes good. And then the second thing would be like, where's the nutrition aspect? And then the more you cook, the more you're going to get deeper and deeper into that. And you're going to be like, well, I've been using beef, but I read something about grass-fed beef and omega-3s, so maybe I should upgrade that part of this. And then you're like, okay, well, I've been adding all this extra stuff onto it. I don't feel like I need it. I could switch over to something that I think is a little better for me instead. And just it slowly happens. But to me, presentation, like you said, should be probably the last thing you think about.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up flavor, because I think there's this misunderstanding, and maybe it's because fitness professionals have been in charge of dieting for a majority of this, I guess 1970s.
And it's been nonsense.
It is. And it's still to this day, like I have a lot of people, it's like, so one of the things I'll ask, a lot of members of the gym know that, and a lot of the time I'll put them on the spot and they kind of like, you're just going to ask me. But I'll ask them like after the gym, it's like, what are you having for dinner? And I'm not judging anybody whatsoever. I'm genuinely curious. Like, what are you having for dinner? Let's talk about it. Let's get excited about food, because to me, that's one of the great things, one of the great, benefits of exercise is that you get to eat more food. You really do. You need to, but it's also you get to. And some of these, what are you having tonight? Brown rice, broccoli, and chicken.
Chicken breast.
Cool. What are you having tomorrow? Brown rice, chicken, broccoli.
Some
like
salmon,
some
rice,
asparagus. You know what I mean? Which is great. That's great. But there is a universe of shit you could do to spruce that up, to make it actually probably healthier for you, but also way more exciting.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. With places like Purple Carrot and Blue Apron and Hello Fresh, that's this lovely marriage of the two. It's like, and I love that because it's education for people that eating well doesn't have to be shitty.
Yep.
There's actually, for like me, the brain has an intuition where it's right. It registers. Like I think a lot of people don't like seafood and certain vegetables because they were prepared poorly when they were kids.
And it's hard based on where you grow up too. If you didn't have access, I feel that same way. I've had to really try to learn, and I'm still very bad at eating salmon.
Yeah, and that's to each their own. And sometimes it takes like those neural pathways that we may have negative associations with. It's like your parents eat that, and it tastes horrible, and you're gagging. That's trauma. And then so obviously for the rest of your life, way back deep in all your neural pathways, there's something in there that's like salmon sucks. I don't want it, and you have to work to override that. But eventually, over time, that's what I tell clients, like nutrition clients, is this gets easier. Because while you're having a difficult time saying, goodbye to, starburst and, sugary drinks like Gatorade, and I'm telling you to eat, fresh fruit and water, it's like eventually your body's going to start to clock in on how good it makes you feel. You're going to revert back, have some starburst. It's going to make you feel like shit. And then by comparison, it's going to be easier to eat the opposite. Sorry, last little bit to add to that, but I love this story. So my sister, she lives in Maui. She's a photographer. Her husband works in sales, and they're hustling, right? Obviously, living in Maui is expensive, and they have 4 kids. So they're working at it. They're hitting the pavement every day. But also, my sister has priorities like you and I would if we had kids. She's trying to feed them well. She's trying to give them good exercise, good lifestyle habits. And so she feeds them as good as their budget allows. And so every now and again, when they go to the grocery store, she'll say, you can each pick something out. And there's this one time I was there. One fella, he chooses peanuts. The other one, she chooses a peach. And the third one chooses a slice of pizza. And halfway through the car ride home, the pizza kid, his name's Silas, he's taking bites of pizza. And he gets tired of it. And he asks for a bite of the peach, and he asks for some of the peanuts. These kids had an unlimited option of, they're at Whole Foods. They could get a candy bar. They could get ice cream. They get whatever they want. But I believe it is my judgment that is a result of them having like just a built-in compass of what makes them feel good and what doesn't make them feel good.
Yeah.
Kid takes a couple bites of the pizza. Bad move, man.
Although I love pizza, but you can do it better. Like when I'm making sourdough pizza with like real pepperoni with no preservatives in it, now we're talking.
Yeah. We gotta talk about that later.
Or like a wood fire pizza. I got this little pizza oven that I use all the time. And
in the trailer?
Wood pellets and
you guys,
it's sweet.
You guys probably have a pretty powerful setup.
Yeah. Yes, but you also like the starburst thing you mentioned, like the sugar thing goes away, which is really cool. Like
Totally.
now I'm like I'll drink like water with a splash of lemon juice and I'm like, ooh, that's sweet. Or I'll drink like ginger tea and I'm like, oh wow, this is like juice to me. You know?
Yeah.
It just takes a little time, but eventually you're like, wow, things become much sweeter. Things taste far better.
It becomes too much, yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes better. But I think you can also trick those systems that make you resist food. And I think fitness is one way to do it. Like if you're out on a long ass hike, but you've brought yourself, like this is what Andrew and I have been doing. She'll bring like salmon on her hike, like some smoked salmon, you know, keeps it cold in the little lunchbox. And when you have hiked 6 miles and you're hot and you're tired and then you get out that salmon, something can rewire in your body. And just like being hungry and
that's a hack.
You worked out a ton and you're fucking starving. And then you're like, oh, let me get something that actually is good for me. And you eat it and you're like, it's the best thing I've ever eaten.
Yeah.
I always felt like that was the trick to like starting to like foods was that it's at times where you're hungry for anything. You'd eat anything someone put in front of you.
Yeah.
And fitness does that better than anything.
That's well said. Yeah, well said. And I mean, in a hike to boot, it's a subtly unpleasant, like external experience, like, or environment around you. You know, you're hot, you're stressing, you're getting dirty, you're getting scratched up. Maybe there's flies biting at your neck. You know, it's all of the above, and then you get that little bit of sustenance. That's a great point. That's a great point. We just did a hike up to Lake Blanche, I think it is. It's like the top of Cottonwood. It's not too bad. It's like 7 miles round trip. But we got to the top. We brought a couple of apricots, and it's like the best apricot I've ever had.
Oh God, yeah. You take like an orange on a hike, and you're like, oh my God, I never knew how good these were.
Yeah.
You know. So I think if you put yourself through some of those like acute challenges, by the end of it, you're like, wow, this is so worth it. This is so, and then you can rewire some of that shit that you had going on back there. I've got to imagine it's the same with hunting, but I don't have any. I'm trying to baby step my way towards hunting.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine that like when you catch a fish and eat it, which I haven't done in my life, it tastes better than the fish that you picked up from the store. Yeah. There's got to be something different there.
Yeah. It's I think it's the same. I think it's expense, right? It's like
it's buy-in.
What say again?
It's buy-in. It's like you've made a commitment to it, and then there's your reward.
That's, I mean, one of the things that I'll tell nutrition clients is like one of the best things you could do for your diet is spend more money on food. Because A, you're getting better quality, but B, because you spent money on it, you're very unlikely to throw it in the bin.
That's a good point.
You're going to prioritize getting to it, and you're going to appreciate it a little bit more. You're like, shit, this chicken breast was like, $6 a pound. I don't know. Well, I usually buy chicken in whole, so I kind of forget what breast would cost. But if you know it's expensive and you know where it's coming from, God bless. At least I can speak for myself. I appreciate the hell out of it way, way more.
Yeah.
I mean, and Feed America will give you like scary statistics as to how much food gets thrown away. And I think a big part of it is because it's like, it's cheap.
Yeah.
It's cheap. Whatever. It's going to waste. We'll just buy it again.
You should also be able to fuck up for a little while. You should be able to buy food because you have the intention of cooking and then feel that pain of throwing that $8 a pound grass-fed beef away.
Beautiful
and go like,
point.
oh my God. First of all, that's an animal. That sucks. That I just wasted it. It died for that. And then also, that cost me $8 and I just watched it go in the trash can.
Yeah.
And it's totally different than when you buy a burrito at Taco Bell. I still love Taco Bell. It has been a very long time, but I'm still a big proponent.
Oh yeah.
And you throw the extra taco you bought away. You're like, it was only like 50 cents.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a different feeling. And so you should be able to fuck up for a little while because eventually you're going to get a lot better at it. And you're going to be like, I need to get that right in the freezer until I'm ready for it. And then I'm going to commit to making it on this night. And you get better at all this stuff.
And that's one that, like we were talking about with fitness earlier, right? That's your external motivation.
Yeah.
You need that motivation. If it's easy, then there's no motivation, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, lift this 2-pound weight. Oh yeah, no problem. Lift this, 20-pound weight. It's like, I guess maybe that's not a fair analogy, but, and I think that there is, I feel like we should confront another reality. And the fact is that there's a reason where, hunter-gatherers still today will climb a tree and get stung by like 100 bees just to get a little bit of honeycomb, right? It's like we're wired to prioritize those flavor profiles, like those sugary things. So, I mean, food companies have obviously done well. They've hooked us up to, like neural scanners, and they follow our brain patterns when we have something, when we eat a starburst. It's like, scary. It lights up, and then they just turn that shit up to 10, and then it's impossible. I mean, and don't get me started when it comes to marketing this shit to kids, but it's like, yes, I'm with you. I haven't had McDonald's I mean this, honest to God, probably for like 15 years. It hasn't touched my lips. do I remember how delicious a Big Mac is every day of my life?
Yeah.
And it's meant to be that way. That's the problem, is that all the food that's bad for you out there, a lot of people say, but it tastes good. I'm not arguing that it tastes good. I know it tastes good. I know it's delicious. Like, it's designed in a lab to be delicious. Mm-hmm. That's the issue, is that, you're kind of battling against it. But then I think when we get down to that place, after that like long-term investment, you get to a place that you eat an orange, you feel great. You eat a Big Mac, I promise you, like, call me out on this, but you eat a Big Mac, you're not going to feel good afterwards because of everything that goes into it, Right.
And we've just been so manipulated, and the sugar thing is so addictive. The fact that it doesn't have a Surgeon General's warning on everything that has sugar in it is wild to me. Yeah. And it's industries buying government, and it's all the stuff that I dislike.
Welcome to America.
Yeah.
In 2021, unfortunately.
But if you can muster up the courage to again, to sort of utilize your ambition to these things, that can really change your life. And I only know it because I've also done it, and it feels awesome, and it's totally worth it.
Likewise. Yeah, that's my experience as well.
I think that's a good place to cap this episode off. I hate that, actually, though, because like we've barely scratched the surface. I feel like you and I could talk about all of this for a far longer.
I think we could. I'm happy to run this back anytime you want.
We should
Tyler,
for sure do that. We should for sure do that. But I gotta make sure you get out of here on time.
Boom.
All right. Where can people find you on the internet?
Give me some handles and stuff. So you could go to Black Wolf Crew, just the consonants.com, or you could go to the Instagram handle Black Wolf Crew, BLK WLF CRW.
Nice.
That's where you find it.
And where are you at? What's your handle?
Sorry. So that's on Instagram, and then mine is at Jameson Brian M.
Cool.
On Instagram. And the Black Wolf Crew, namely, there's a regular output of nutrition, ancestral movement, just kind of thought, philosophy, recommendation.
Love it, man.
Hey,
that's
I appreciate
awesome.
This. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Out,
no, this is my favorite type of podcast, but hands down, because it's all the shit I really love talking about.
I know, it's a feedback.
It's clicking. Yeah, it's clicking. When I can find a guest, and what's interesting is I try not to flood the podcast with that. What's nice is people like you are super rare out there, so it's not.
Likewise.
It's not like it's easy for me to like find people who are into all these same things, but I have had them on the show. It's always just my favorite episodes. So I appreciate you being here. Thanks to everybody for listening. We got a lot more coming at you. I'm going to be busy with this podcast, so I got a lot of things planned for you folks. Stay tuned, and as always, we will see you on the next episode.